I never thought I'd be the guy getting into a showdown with an HOA with those clipboard-wielding, rule-obsessed suburban overlords. I moved out to Willow Creek, a quiet little corner of nowhere, to escape that kind of nonsense, to sink my hands into the dirt and let my apple trees do the talking. After 30 years running agricultural policy for the state, I just wanted a patch of land, some peace, maybe a cold cider on the porch at sunset. But then she showed up, and let me tell you, it was like a storm rolling in, slow at first, then all hell breaking loose. My name's Tom Harlan, retired widower, grandpa to 3 wild kids who love my apples more than my stories. I bought this old plot on the edge of Willow Creek, just outside the HOA's iron grip, or so I thought. The land was a wreck when I got it overgrown, littered with rusted junk, the kind of place you'd expect to find a haunted tractor. But the soil was good, the water steady, and I could feel the potential in my bones. I spent that first year clearing it out, planting 60 apple trees, coaxing life back into the earth. It was like therapy I didn't know I needed. By year 2, the orchard was alive. Kids from the local school would come by, sketch pads in hand, drawing bees buzzing around blossoms. I set up a little stand by the road. Nothing fancy, just a table with a sign. Take what you need, pay what you want. Folks left a few bucks, sometimes a note, once even a jar of homemade blackberry jam with a scribble that said, "Your apples, my berries fair trade." That's the kind of place Willow Creek was, or at least it used to be. Then came Linda Voss. She moved in last spring, all sharp heels and sharper glares, walking her yappy little dog past my orchard every morning, staring like I'd parked a junkyard at her front lawn. I didn't think much of it at first. Some folks don't like the smell of compost or the sight of an old guy in a flannel shirt hauling crates. But by April, the letters started. Not from the city, not from the county, but from the Willow Creek HOA, addressed to resident like I was some squatter. The first one was pure passive-aggressive gold. Your property's visual presentation raises concerns about community standards. I chuckled, tossed it in the trash, and went back to pruning my trees. But the next one? Oh, it had teeth. Commercial activity is prohibited in or near HOA boundaries. That made me pause. I knew my rights, shell. I'd written half the AG codes for this state. My land was zoned agricultural, exempt from the nonsense, and a little apple stand with no employees and no neon signs wasn't breaking any rules. But I could feel if this wasn't about apples. This was about control. Linda showed up in person a week later, standing at the edge of my gravel drive, arms crossed, her dog yipping like it was auditioning for a horror flick. "You need to take down that stand, Tom." She snapped, no hello, no nothing. "It's an eyesore, and it's dragging down property values." I wiped the sweat off my brow, tipped my hat, and said, "Morning to you too, Linda. This land's been AG since the 60s. I'm not running a supermarket, just sharing apples." Her eyes narrowed. "This is a neighborhood, not a farm. If you want to play Old MacDonald, go do it somewhere else." I could have laughed, but the way she said it like my orchard was some kind of crime made my gut twist. "HOA's got rules," she added, "and we will enforce them." I just smiled, turned back to my crates, and let her stew. She stood there a minute, fuming, then stomped off. I knew right then she wasn't going to let this. Gosh was the kind of person who'd rather burn a bridge than cross it. The letters kept coming, each one thicker, fancier, like they were trying to cosplay a law firm. One cited some vague HOA covenant about adjacent land compliance, claiming my orchard was a visible nuisance and demanding I shut down within 21 days or face formal action. I laughed, but it was the tired kind, the kind you let out when you know trouble's knocking. I'd seen this game before back in my state days. I dealt with bureaucrats who drown you in paperwork just to scare you into submission. So I dug out my old files, zoning maps, permits, exemptions I'd helped draft myself. My land wasn't under their jurisdiction, and they knew either they should have. I sent them a letter short and sharp, in the kind of dry legalese that makes petty folks sweat. My parcel is outside your authority, per county records. My activities are protected under state AG law. Further interference will be considered harassment. I signed it, Tom Harlan, and waited. For a few days, it was quiet too quiet. Then the flyers started, slipped under my gate, stuffed in mailboxes around Willow Creek, bold red ink screaming about strangers at the fruit stand and neighborhood safety risks. One even called my orchard a public health concern. That one stung. The kids who picked apples with their grandparents, the old couple who read under my trees, every Sunday were they the danger? Or was it just me, existing without Linda's permission? I started noticing the shift. Neighbors I'd known for years, like Ellie who made killer apple pies, stopped waving. The church group that held bake sales by my trees canceled without a word. Then the camera showed up little motion sensor jobs, zip-tied to the HOA's trail fence, pointed right at my orchard. When I asked about them, they said it was for wildlife monitoring. When I took one down, a letter came warning me not to tamper with HOA property. I started documenting everything, every flyer, every letter, every glare from Linda as she passed by. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was patient. That's what 30 years in regulation teaches you. Don't swing first, but make damn sure you've got a knockout punch ready. Then came the day that changed everything. It was October, crisp air, leaves turning gold. I was setting up for a third grade class, 20 kids, a couple of teachers, a simple tour with some apple picking and a talk about bees. The school bus pulled up, kids buzzing like fireflies when 2 cop cars rolled in behind, lights flashing, painting my trees in red and blue. Linda was there by the fence, phone in hand, that smug smirk plastered on her face like she'd just won the lottery. The officer, a guy who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, stepped out. Mr. Harlan, we got a call about unauthorized commercial activity involving kids. Can we talk? I glanced at the bus, at the kids' faces pressed to the windows, at the apples waiting for them. Then I looked at the officer and said, "Come as you please, sure thing, but you might want to run my name first." He raised an eyebrow, pulled out his tablet, and tapped a few times. His partner's eyes widened, just a flicker, but I caught it. "Mr. Harlan," the officer said, quieter now, "you were with state AG enforcement? Director?" I nodded. "Retired. 25 years. He rubbed his neck, glanced at Linda, then back at me. "Let's step over here." Away from the bus, out of earshot, he laid it out. Linda's call claimed I was running an unlicensed event with contaminated soil and no health permits. I let out a slow breath, half laugh, half disbelief. Contaminated soil? They're picking apples, officer. He nodded, clearly uncomfortable. "Yeah, I figured. But we got to check. Thing is, I took your soil safety class back in '09. Still got the checklist." I couldn't help but smile. "Then you know this is all above board. I've got the permits, the exemptions, the lab tests, everything." I handed him a folder, thick with every document they'd need. He flipped through it, his partner nodding along, and I could see it in their eyes they knew they'd been played. "You're good, Mr. Harlan," he said, snapping the folder shut. "Sorry for the trouble." But Linda wasn't done. She stormed up, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You're just letting him go? There are children here. This is a hazard." The officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, this property's not under HOA control. He's in the clear." Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. Then the officer turned to her, half smirking. "You don't know who this guy is, do you? He wrote the AG codes you're trying to twist. Trained half our department." Linda's face went red, then white, like she'd seen a ghost. She backed off, her dog yipping, and for the first time, she looked small. The kids spilled out of the bus, laughing, picking apples, the orchard alive again. Linda just stood there, frozen, irrelevant, and, I swear, that was the real crime in her eyes. The war wasn't over, though. Linda came back harder, with flyers claiming I was some shady operative dodging zoning laws, trying to turn Willow Creek into a produce hub. She got the new HOA president, some tech bro named Derek, to push a bylaw giving them power over adjacent lands. I showed up to their meeting first time ever carrying my old binder, wearing my state council jacket. Linda was mid-speech, all fire and brimstone when she saw me. Her voice cracked just for a second. I took the mic, laid out my credentials. 25 years in AG enforcement, drafted the laws protecting small farmers, saved this valley from drought with the Soil Act. I passed out copies, maps, permits, a letter from the county supervisor. If you push this bylaw, I said, you're breaking state law, and I'll file an injunction. The room went quiet. Derek looked like he'd swallowed his tongue. Linda didn't say a word, she just left. Then came the big move. The HOA filed a petition to reassess my land zoning, claiming it was misclassified. I didn't flinch. I sent my documents to the county, the state, even a local paper. I filed a FOIA request and got gold. Emails from Linda to Derek, one saying he's bluffing no one checks the codes. Another mocked up a flyer claiming my soil was toxic. I sent it all to a reporter friend, Sarah, who ran a piece called The Apple Fight, One Man versus HOA Tyranny. It blew up, shared everywhere, from farming forums to veteran groups. People started calling, writing, thanking me, sharing their own HOA horror stories. Linda went quiet, but I knew she wasn't done. The final showdown came at a public hearing. The town hall was packed, neighbors, farmers, even Pastor Mike with his Bible tucked under his arm. I stood at the podium, binder in hand, and said, "This isn't about apples. It's about control, about fear turning neighbors into enemies." I handed over the FOIA emails, the flyers, the proof. The crowd murmured, then clapped. Linda spoke, all icy defiance, but the panel shut her down. "Your claims have no standing, Miss Voss. Cease your actions." She paled, sat down, and that was it. The HOA voted her out, 6-1. They issued an apology, not just to me, but to everyone she targeted: a daycare mom, a vet with a workshop, an old couple with chickens. Linda moved away, tried to join another HOA, but her name was poisoned now. The orchard became something more after that. I turned it into a community trust open for school trips, veteran picnics, cider days. Kids made signs, neighbors brought pies, and we built a trail with plaques about the trees. One read, "This orchard stood through storms of will, not weather." People came back early with their pies, the church group, even Derek, who helped plant new trees, blisters and all. I spoke at a state forum, helped draft the bill to curb HOA overreach. But the Real win was quieter. One morning, a little girl named Sophie gave me a drawing of my orchard, labeled Tom's Peace Garden. I framed it, hung in the barn. That's when I knew it wasn't about beating Linda. It was about planting something deeper: truth, roots, community. But here's the thing. Linda's gone, but there's always another Linda out there. Someone who thinks rules trump people, control trumps kindness. I don't know if I won or just held my ground long enough for the storm to pass. What do you think? Was I right to fight with paper and patience? Or should I have pushed back harder, louder? Drop a comment. Tell me your HOA stories. Or just let me know when's the last time you stood up for something small that turned out to be bigger than you thought. I'm reading everyone.